Hi everyone, ¿qué lo que mi gente? Today I'm going to give you 10 tips on everything you need to know to travel Mexico. And we're going to start right away with safety. I will insert some comments about safety in most categories, but in general, I would say the following. Mexico is a lot safer than what most people, especially in the US, think. That being said, you should exercise caution. Obviously, you should be aware of your surroundings no matter where you go in the world. I would also say share all of the addresses and telephone numbers of each place that you're going to be staying at. Share your itinerary with people that you are close to. Learn a few phrases to be able to ask people if it's safe where you are, if there's somewhere that you should avoid and all that. People will usually be willing to help you with that, especially in Mexico. People are very friendly, very helpful. So, ask questions. Another really important tip is getting the appropriate day backpack. So this is an anti-theft backpack. You see there's no opening in the front. The opening is on the back. Like for someone to be able to reach to the back, you would feel it. So this is a really good thing to purchase. So that being said, I feel like Mexico is much safer than the media portrays and than what most of us would think. Now moving on to transportation tips. Public transportation in general is quite effective in Mexico. It's very affordable. I'm going to briefly break down the cost of all of those things. So the metro is very affordable. It is 5 pesos, which is the equivalent of like 25 cents of a dollar. The metro bus, it's 30 cents of a dollar. And then they also have line 4, which is a bus that takes you to the airport in Ciudad de Mexico. It is $1.50. Super affordable. So you could save a lot of money going to the airport. Like a taxi to the airport is probably $20 to $30, depending on where you are, maybe even more. So $1.50? I guess the only discomfort is like, if you have a lot of luggage, that would be a little uncomfortable. But if you don't have too much luggage, that is incredible. There's also a cable bus that is 35 cents of a dollar. They also have radio taxis. According to how far away and how long you're in the taxi, it'll charge you. They will charge you 9 cents per 45 seconds. It is more expensive than regular taxis. So in Ciudad de Mexico, they have pink taxis, and then in other cities, it's green taxis. But you'll see them on the street, they're everywhere, and they're more affordable. I would say before you get in, agree on a price. So tell them where you're going and ask them how much they're gonna charge you, and then you can haggle and set on a price. I would say that most rides that aren't too long, I don't know, like less than 15 minutes, they're about 30 to 60 pesos, which is the equivalent of $1.50 to $3. When it comes to Ubers and Didis, they are also quite affordable, a lot more than in the States. I would say download both Uber and Didi. Didi is not as popular in the States because it doesn't work here, but it's basically the same as Uber. They have the same safety features, but sometimes Didi can be cheaper. So like I would say download both so that you can compare. That's always what I did, and that way you can get a better price. When it comes to interstate buses, they have from luxury lines to the cheapest lines and anything in the middle. But even like the most expensive ones, they're still quite affordable. I spent a total of $71 in between 3 different buses. Each one was like a 4-hour trip. I did notice the trend of being more expensive, like arriving or leaving Estado de Mexico, and that's probably because of the tolls and all that. In terms of safety, interstate buses offer insurance, and it's pretty cheap. It's only like about $1 more, and yet it covers so much. Like I read the policy and it really covers not just like your things, but in case of an accident, like it covers a lot, like in terms of your health, if you have to go to the doctor, like an ambulance, like medicine, and even other things, like so many other things that I was just really surprised that it would cover that much. And in terms of safety, I would say when you take taxis, make sure that this is actually a legal taxi, and don't be afraid to ask someone, where can I get taxis? Like where is it safe to take taxis? So again, you should learn phrases like that. Now let's move on to tips about accommodations. There are many different ways you can go about it. There are always hotels, motels, there's Airbnb, which is what I usually go for. There is Couchsurfing. There are many options. I'm going to focus on Airbnb and Couchsurfing because that's honestly what I would recommend even more than hotels, because Airbnbs, personally, these are my reasons. Airbnb gives me like the same comfort of a hotel, but for much less and a lot more personalized. And sometimes there are hotel rooms that are listed on Airbnb as well, and they end up being cheaper. Then if you really want to go cheaper, like virtually for free, there's Couchsurfing. And recently, I think in 2020, they added more safety features. So now they verify people, they do background checks. So it might feel safer, for example, for especially female travelers. So that if that's something you feel comfortable doing, then you could do it for free with Couchsurfing. They are charging a fee now to use the service, whether that's the app or the website, but that's still a relatively low price to pay to get free accommodations. I spent a total of $247 on Airbnb for 7 nights. I spent 2 nights at a bed and breakfast in Coyoacán, and it was $53 for 2 nights. And it was a really nice neighborhood, a really nice room, very simple, but it was like in a very historic type place, so everything seemed very eclectic and like old, but like in a good way. So it was a quite interesting stay. Then I spent 2 other nights in San Miguel de Allende, which is in a different state. It was also in a bed and breakfast, and that one was $100. And the room was like so much nicer than what I expected. It was very big. I think it's one of the biggest hotel rooms that I've ever stayed at. It was at a hotel. It had 2 balconies in the front. It had a terrace in the back with like a view. There was like a lot of beautiful shared spaces. It had a kitchen. A lot of these places also, there's another good thing about Airbnb, like they will give you like water. There will be a kitchen where you can like store things, cook if you want to save money. Then I spent 1 night at Morelia, and that one was not a bed and breakfast. It was actually the most expensive room. It was for $55. I think it was that expensive because one, it had a hot tub, like a huge hot tub. It was solar powered though, like the hot water, which is great, and like the electricity in the place. But you know, it had a hot tub, and it was 2 blocks away from the cathedral, which is like the main attraction at Morelia. So it was in a very convenient place, and the host was great. And finally, I spent 2 nights at a place called Teotihuacan, also in Estado de Mexico, and that one was an entire vacation home. And it was $9 per night. You know, if you add the cleaning fees and the Airbnb fees, it came up to $39, but that was an entire vacation home. Like it had a huge yard, like space for parking. Like if you came with a vehicle, you had like private parking, very safe. And convenient enough location, especially if you had a car, because it was close to the main attraction there, which were some pyramids. But the house was very clean, very cozy. It was a beautiful home. I really liked it. I loved that one. So that's how affordable Airbnb can be, which is why I usually go for that website. Tip number 4 is about exchanging money. There are 3 ways you could do it. The first 2 are the better ones. You could change your money at your bank before going to Mexico. You would have to call ahead of time because usually they don't have pesos. But if you call them like 2-3 days before and you tell them the amount that you want to change, they will do that for you. I think you just have to go pick it up. Maybe they can mail it to you, and they will give you like a pretty decent rate. The other option is once you get there to exchange it at the airport, which is what I did. And honestly, I do not regret it. It wasn't bad. Like I exchanged my money for 19 pesos to $1. But what I did also is that I only exchanged, I think like half of the money that I was going to use, and the rest I put it on my card. And I think I would have put more on my card had I known, because the exchange rate ended up being a lot more beneficial to me using my card, because you know your card will exchange it to whatever the price is that day. And a lot of times at the airport they won't. It's a lot more stable. They'll obviously charge you a little bit more. I mean, even if they don't charge you a fee, they're still like, you know, giving you less pesos for your money, for your dollars. But again, with my card, they only charge me like a 2% to 5% fee. That's usually what credit cards charge. I think mine was probably 2 because it was very little for each exchange. Every time that I used it, it barely made a difference. They exchange it for more pesos, so it ended up being a lot more beneficial financially to me to use my credit card. And the third option is to go to a bank or casa de cambio, which is like an exchange rate house. How do you translate that? You know what I mean. Like, there are places specifically for exchanging your money that you could go to, or you could go to an ATM or a bank. But that is the worst way you could do it because they will give you a lot less money for your dollars. But you do need some cash, even though, like I said, using a card is probably a really good option. But I would say only have enough cash for certain things and use the rest. Put the rest on your card. The things that you will need cash for are like small restaurants, food stands, markets, you know, where you buy like trinkets, stuff like that. Sometimes at museums, especially if you're paying for the permission to take pictures or videos, that usually you have to pay in cash. And also for taxis, for like local taxis, you will have to use cash. And for tipping, you know, if you want to tip anyone, obviously you're gonna need cash for that. Tip number 5, activities. Now, there's so many free activities that you can do in Mexico.